lot of pills.
Many years from now, would you be willing to trade all the days from this day to that for one chance, just one chance, to come back here and tell our enemies that they may take our lives, but they'll never take our freedom?
The future is uncertain, I know this. Death is inevitable, I know this. But one thing is certain, as free men, it is our right to live unencumbered and in peace. And those times are quickly drawing to an end. And in these times, peace is certainly an illusion, and as the chains grow tighter, our ability to slip those chains increase incrementally with every passing moment. Inaction is no longer an option. It's time to raise our voices like a cacophony of thunder and lightning and tell the masters no more. And this is Nighthawk, and I say, for myself, no more. Revolution Radio, freedomslips.com, because the freedom is slipping away.
Who owns you? If you're not in control, then someone else is. Join me, Ivy West, for Voices on the Wind, Saturday. I discuss government, health, metaphysics, suppressed science, universal mysteries, little-known incredible facts, alternative energies, and even more than you can imagine. Won't you join us on Revolution Radio Saturdays for Voices on the Wind with me, Ivy West.
There are lives in the balance, people under fire, children at the cannons.
Because if your head's in the sand, your tail is a target.
Galactic Interstellar Council on Revolution Radio Studio A, Fridays at 2 p.m. Eastern. Join us as we traverse the starseed paradigm, as expressed in the time-space continuum that we know as the divine expression of love and light. Integrating this conscious unity into the galactic paradigm. So welcome all, both terrestrial beings and galactic beings as one. So be it. You're listening to Revolution Radio.
My name's Jimmy. It's MacDonald in the morning on Revolution Radio.
I'm
daddy, I'm that nigga in the alley. I'm your doctor when you need. Want some coke, have some weed. You know me, I'm your friend, your main boy, thick and thin. I'm your pusher man. I'm your pusher man.
Bruce MacDonald, are you there?
I am, sir. Thanks for the nice tunes segueing into this. How you doing today, Jimmy?
Hey, man, I am doing fantastic. Over here.
Man,
Go ahead.
I think I'm gonna take you up on those California seeds, man. And I'll get you to buy them, and I'll tell you how to mail them. Right now, you're allowed personal cultivation over. Dude, I did a little research. And it goes up to like $40 Canadian for a single super seed in the Canadian system, right?
I know.
$40 Canadian, by the way, is about like $34 US. That's a lot of one seed. Unbelievable. I had a request, ladies and gentlemen, from one of my neighbors that I get better seeds for marijuana on the mountain. And I want to do that for this neighbor, so I'm going to do it. My wife just insists that it come into the mail in his wife's name, not my name. But I don't think there will be any problems. But yeah, so that I went through that whole text message you sent. That's quite a list, man.
I know.
And,
I know. Well,
yeah, and his prices are fantastic.
Yeah, and
Why is he selling so cheap? What's the catch here?
well, he's a real guy. I mean,
Okay.
no, he's just a real guy. Lives in the Santa Cruz area. You know, he's been around for quite a while, and you know, he's not trying to get rich, man. He's trying to do his thing and make enough and get people squared away. You know, and the thing about his stuff too is that he doesn't use any of this genetically modified hybrid types. These are direct, strains. So, makes for good stuff, man. So hopefully we can work it out and get it going, man.
Yeah, that sounds fantastic. Now, Jimmy, I'm giving you free reign here, man. Guide the 90 minutes of MacDonald in the morning on Friday, the last 90 minutes, because you've done a lot of research into Laurel Canyon and Charles Manson in the 60s, and I was surprised when you called me up and you told me all that stuff. Even before McGowan came out with Laurel Canyon, you were into this. So now, first off, let's talk about McGowan himself. I was shocked. I was thinking of looking him up and seeing if he wanted to come on for an interview when I was done the book, like I did with Ed Bramley, who didn't want to do a radio interview but still corresponds with me. Mm-hmm. And you told me, I couldn't believe it. I couldn't believe it. So let's start there. What happened to McGowan?
Well, after this book came out, honestly, this is one of the most revealing books that's ever been written in the alternative genre, as far as expose type thing. And because this is really the keys to the kingdom, and the things that he describes in here that he touches on are only the tip of the iceberg, realistically. Yeah. And so he died of fast-acting cancer right after this book came out, some sort of a fast-acting lung cancer. So who knows, it's a little bit suspect, if you ask me. I was doing some work on specifically what my interest is in science. And so I was doing separate work on the Grateful Dead. And I grew up here in the Bay Area. My mom was a hippie chick. My mom's fairly good looking woman, and she was single. And we lived in Palo Alto, California, where a lot of this started in the 60s. Stanford Research Institute, Stanford. I went to a grade school for gifted children. It was a program that was put together by Stanford. It was a cutting edge educational program, because I was literally miles away from Stanford University at the time. Anyways, the point is, go ahead.
If I may, how old would you have been at the height of this? Like at the Manson murders, end of '69. How old would you have been?
I was 9 years old.
Oh yeah, you were conscious. You were taking stuff in,
No,
I remember I was born in '66, and I remember the soldiers on the streets of Ottawa when Pierre Trudeau called martial law because of the Front de Libération de Quebec kidnapping a couple diplomats. I remember, like, I have all these memories from 6 years old. So 9 years old, man, you were taking this in. You were walking these streets, taking it in, soaking it up.
dude,
That's amazing.
I was involved in it. I mean, some of the biggest players from the '60s. I mean, were in my neighborhood. They were at my house. You know, some of our neighbors were hiding Bill Graham, which was one of the biggest, music producer, concert promoters in history. I mean, East Coast, West Coast. Jerry Garcia. My mom. I don't know if you're familiar with who Sonny Barger is, but my mom is friends with Sonny Barger, and
he was the leader of the Hells Angels for decades.
Correct.
International, not just the California chapter.
Right. And
you had Sonny Barger at your house?
I had Sonny Barger thrown down the 3 flights of stairs at my house by my mom's ex-boyfriend.
I don't mean to laugh.
No.
But holy cow, dude.
No, I mean, that's originally how we left the Bay Area, for that reason, because my mom had broken up with this dude. She was Sonny Barger, was her friend, and he gave her a ride home just to drop her off. Yeah. And he was dropping her off at the house, and he was coming downstairs. My mom's ex-boyfriend was coming up the stairs, and he grabbed Sonny Barger, threw him down 3 flights of stairs, and then grabbed my mom, threw her in the car, and drove off. He shot. He was going to shoot my mom in the head. He fired the gun in her face while they were driving down the street.
Dude,
she jumped out of the car.
I'm going to ask you that. I'm going to ask you this live on radio. Do you want to do a book with me?
Yes.
Do you want to use Laurel Canyon as a springboard, and we'll talk about it and corroborate what McGowan did, and then let's find the next one. Like, I'm convinced the Seattle thing was the same thing with Kurt Cobain.
Oh,
and
it totally
Courtney
is.
Love
It totally is. It totally is. And that's the thing, is like, I'm telling you, I don't know how I got off into Sonny Barger, but let me just come back to the Bay Area here.
Oh, it's a good segue. I'm very curious about the Hells Angels.
Yeah, so let's go back. Let's come back to the Bay Area. So the thing that's important to understand about Dave McGowan's work is it's only one part of the work. This is an operation that is so big and so huge that does include hundreds of people, literally. And these were there was a team in charge of social engineering in the '60s. Timothy Leary was on that team. You know, Bear Stanley was on that team. The Grateful Dead was on that team. Stanford Research Institute. So you had the role modeling and the soundtracking going on down in Los Angeles, and up in San Francisco at the Haight-Ashbury. You had an influx from the Presidio with basically undercover military personnel, long-haired hippie types that were basically infused into the Haight-Ashbury scene to spread philosophy and different ways of thinking. And so there's a triangle that goes between Laurel Canyon, the Bay Area, and the Tavistock Institute. And now you also, in the Bay Area, you have a bunch of branches that come off of that, because you also have down in Monterey the Defense Language Institute. You also had Fort Ord, and you also had Big Sur, where there was a place called Esalen Institute. And so a lot of work went on there as far as the psychological programming and the aspects of it. So in the beginning, for the most part, we really didn't have much TV. We didn't have much visual for the most part, but everybody had a radio, like a radio in your car, a radio at your house. And so music and the playing of music and the repeating of mantras or ideologies over and over again in these snappy little, tunes was found to be extremely valuable in putting forward an idea into the social engineering of the population.
Oh, that's incredible. That's incredible, man. So, what's your general feeling about the hippie movement? Because even at Rev Radio, there's been some blowback, like people like Jer Bear and Pat Rabbit and Why Not, who are, kind of, they say, hey, I'm being too hard on this movement, and that some good things came out of it. What do you say to that?
Well, the thing is, it's just like, what we see going on today with this Q movement. The people that are in the Q movement, they're not bad for wanting to know the truth. I mean, they're not bad. So the hippies themselves, they're like we say, they weren't bad. They were trying to do. See, to me, realistically, what happened was that it got out of control. In other words, what they wanted to do was they wanted to put this stuff forward and see how they could formulate moving into some sort of a new political idea or a new shaking of the foundations of society in America. And so, that what happened, I think, realistically, is what happened is it got out of control. And I think more people took onto the idea than they originally thought was going to happen. And it got to a point where it was starting to affect the economics of America, because you can't have a bunch of people running around all living in one house, nobody buying cars, everybody shopping at secondhand stores. Consumerism was about to die. It was on its way out, and it got out of control. Yeah. So what they did was they brought in their player, Charles Manson. Now, Charles Manson and the murders up at the Sharon Tate house literally was instrumental in killing the hippie movement. And so the thing about it is, and what's really interesting about it to me, and if you want me to stop, just stop me, because I can roll on this for hours, literally, because I've done so much work on it. The thing about it is where Epic and I started to go even deeper into the Manson thing was because I noticed something. So I was back and I was doing research on something I was working on, and I noticed the pillow on the couch at the murder scene was American flag, and it was upside down. And so when I saw that, I thought to myself, so let me get this straight, man. You just sat here and butchered somebody, cut out their baby on the floor, left them laying there, but on your way out the door, you just thought you'd leave a little subliminal message for people to let them know America was in trouble. So that right there, I automatically went, wait a minute, I'm going to look at this with a 20/20 eye. I'm going to look at this with an eye that says, maybe this isn't real. Maybe this didn't happen. So I started looking at, okay, Polanski, what is he? He's a director. Okay, boom. What does he do? He calls down, they come down, they say, hey, I need a murder scene. The people come up, they create the set. And I mean, it's their idea of what that murder scene is going to look like, not an actual murder scene. So the flag thing is something that a stylist would do in a scene for a movie, to me. So then that just opened up a whole nother can of worms. We found out that Charlie... Go ahead.
But hold on. The murders are real. Like Sharon Tate and Jay Sebring are not living in France somewhere. That they really are dead, right?
I would say I don't know anything post murder on Jay Sebring. We know a lot about Jay Sebring. He's a person that cuts hair. He's a person that does hair. He's a person that supplies information directly. He was a direct pipeline to the CIA. So a lot of these, but as far as Sharon Tate goes, now after the murders, about a couple years, 3-4 years later, some chick pops up that's Sharon Tate's twin sister that no one ever knew about. I'm not kidding. Yeah. You can go back and find these interviews where she went on all these different shows, these different talk shows and all this. Go ahead.
Can I just stop for a sec? So I've brought in Mr. Rowe and John Z. So guys, this isn't really a round table. We're just basically asking Jimmy questions, and we're drilling into Laurel Canyon. And of course, Mr. Rowe is from the Bay Area.
Yeah.
And John Z has been through the programs, so you both have a lot to add. John, you have a question. Go ahead.
Yeah. So as far as the upside down.
Speak up, please.
As far as the upside down flag pillow thing, is there anything else that led you to believe that it's a fake crime scene?
Well, I just
that could be just as simple
choreographed, not fake, choreographed, stylized, choreographed, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like Kubrick with the moon landing, that sort of thing, right?
Right.
So you're saying the murder didn't take place, correct?
I'm saying some of the murders did take place. I'm saying that I have questions about whether or not Sharon Tate was even killed. To be honest with you, if you really were to press me right now, I'd be hard pressed to even say that Charles Manson never even went to jail. That he didn't just wipe off that swastika, take off his wig, and walk out the back door and jump in his Jag and take off.
Okay.
So, but the thing is there were people that were killed. I'm not saying no one died. But what I am saying is that what we were presented as what happened is definitely not what happened. I mean, it could have been Crosby, Stills, Nassar, and Manson. It was that close. But I mean, he got thrown.
Oh, God.
That dude got thrown. Look, he was next door to that house. You brought up the Process Church. The Process Church had a house right next door to that house. Manson was in that house long before he ever killed anybody or was accused of killing anybody, which he never even killed anyone. He's the first person in history, I think, that's ever been thrown in jail for mind control.
Yeah. He's a precedent. You're absolutely right. Mr. Rowe, you can jump in here too. What do you guys know about the Process Church? I think the alt radio expert I know is Ed Opperman. He spent a lot of time on the Process Church on his Spreaker channel and when he used to be on Rev Radio. Offshoot of Scientology. Who's behind it? What is it? What's the connection to the Son of Sam in New York? One of the few Jewish serial killers we've ever had, right? Son of Sam. So that's interesting. Go ahead, Mr. Rowe.
Yeah, I'm not real familiar on the Manson Church. However, when I was a child in the 70s, my mother was invited by her friend to go to Jonestown, Guyana, with Jim Jones. And the decision my mom had to make was if she wanted to actually bring me with her, because she would have brought me with her. And it was I was told it was literally a coin flip, that my mom decided, well, let me flip the coin. Nah, I'm not going to go. And so instead, we stayed in the San Francisco Bay Area, actually a Daly City when I was a child. And in the 70s, I lived across the street from, at that time, the president of the San Francisco Hells Angels chapter, a guy by the name of Harry the Horse Flamboris. And Harry the Horse Flamboris his girlfriend was my babysitter. And
cool.
So I would often, be right out in front of Harry's house, riding my big wheel, going inside, and I was a child, so I didn't realize there was tons of cocaine and cash in the safe. And one night, the house blew up. Literally, the house exploded from within. They had killed Harry and I believe his girlfriend. I'm not sure if they killed her too. They bombed the house, took the safe, and in the end, he was buried with his motorcycle down in Coma. But that was my little experience. And growing up here in the Bay Area, interestingly enough, before I knew Sean David Morton, I was actually hanging out with him at Terrence McKenna's house, and I didn't like Sean. He was kind of like, boisterous and this young kind of like, look at me, I'm the center of attention kind of guy. I didn't care for him. And then, I didn't really know who he was. He was just some guy. And time went on. Terrence passed away. Art Bell came into, and then I heard Sean on that radio, and I'm like, is this the same guy? It didn't really click until finally.
Am I hearing this right? You crossed paths with Sean David Morton in your youth?
At Terrence McKenna's, yeah.
Jesus, what a small world.
It is a crazy world.
Unbelievable.
And Jerry Garcia had a house. Jerry and also Brent Midland both had houses in Lafayette, California. Which was like a friend of mine literally lived down the street from him. And Lafayette's out here in Contra Costa County. This was in the 80s, of course. So, yeah, I mean, I didn't know Jerry personally or Brent. Now, my friend had met Brent Midland a couple times and went to his house, but I never got to. But yeah, it is a small world. Now, I did know Terrence, and he introduced me to Salvia divinorum and a lot of interesting things in the psychonaut world. We'll leave it at that. So I was a gnat's brow away from going down to Jim Jones's little retreat.
Jeez.
Well, you know, Jim Jones. It's interesting because the Bay Area, but once again, is the place. It's the center of the universe, ladies and gentlemen, and you know, it's really, you never really hear much about it, but when you start to think about what's gone on here, they've launched so many different things here, and from a you know, an entertainment perspective, I mean, the list, it just goes on and on and on up here as far as great thinkers, the technology, the music, all of this stuff coming straight out of Stanford University. Really, I mean, and look at where we are. And I'm glad you brought up Jerry Garcia, because that's the work that I was doing that got me into this in the first place, was on the Grateful Dead. And because they were using technology to experiment on people in the show.
I went to the Dead shows. I went to a lot of Grateful Dead shows, and I liked it. You know, I mean, I admit, I dropped the little pieces of paper and little droplets and walked around with the vendors and danced my little butt off for a while. Usually it was somebody dragging me with them, but I was always up for a good time.
Well, I did over 100 shows with Jerry Garcia band out over the years. So I was quite tied into the band, but this was after what we're talking about. This is when the band was just a band. But the band wasn't always... The band wasn't...
You told me something about frequency in the Grateful Dead. Do you want to save that for after the break? Or,
yeah,
or
definitely. Yeah, that's where I was going. So, I mean, we got a couple minutes. So, yeah, so, you know, we started to do quite a bit of research, Epic and I, on Stanford Research Institute, Bear Stanley, standing waves that they were using, specific electronics, and the wall of sound that was behind the Grateful Dead. And it caused a lot of people to follow the Dead all the way everywhere, all around the world, and they learned a lot from those concerts as far as frequency and mind control. And I have tape of Steve Parrish. I have tape of all of them talking about how they were working with the CIA. The CIA was working with them. They were helping the CIA. And when we come back, I got a clip from Bob Weir talking about a show in Cornell University, New York, that never happened. It was completely done with mind control, and I'll play that clip when we come back.
So I'm going to ask the ultimate square question here to all you guys. Is there anything that can rationalize what was done in California? Like, from a military perspective, could you make the case that, like, yes, it's a bit diabolical about what we're doing, but these experiments are necessary because if we don't understand how to influence people, the Russians could influence our people or something like... Is there any military rationale? Is there anything you could say that justifies this?
No.
Scientific exploration into the psyche of the human being? I don't know. Just a wild guess.
Yeah. But nothing really.
Well, I guess
right?
I guess you got to control the useless eaters somehow, and if you don't want to do it with a stick, you better find out how else to do it.
I don't think it's necessarily to control the useless eaters, as some people would put it. I think that's just an immediate side effect of learning about certain things. I would hope, in the greater scheme of things, that it's being done for an actual real purpose, for when a time comes where we actually have full understanding of the human mind and body, which I guess would, never mind.
See you on the other side, folks. Great show today. Stay with us. MacDonald in the morning.
I ditched it. I don't want to listen to those ads, man. Kills me. It's killing me, man. I saw somebody in here that I didn't see before, and they're not blue. Hey, Onslow. Hey, Lee. Hey, Robin. What's going on, you guys? Hey, Danny. It's sort of an impromptu visit. I don't have a lot of stuff planned, but we're just kind of going off the cuff. We'll see what happens. Let me get some music here when we come back. Hang on. Oh, yeah. Here we go. Hang on.
Trucking, got my chips cashed in, keep trucking, like the Doodah Man, together, more or less in life.
All right, we're ready. Let's go back. Stand by.
Brought into our matrix of truth with your host, the Solaris Blue Ravens. Solaris will bring you an array of unique guests covering topics from ghostly spirits to amazing anomalies, covert technology, UFOs, and shadowy global events.
And that's right here, Revolution Radio, freedomslips.com, Saturdays, midnight till 2 a.m. Eastern Time. Revolution Radio, where information never sleeps.
Let the magic rise.
Narco-syndicalist commune. We take it in turns to act as a sort of executive officer for the week. Yes. But all the decisions of that officer have to be ratified at a special bi-weekly meeting. Yes, I see. By a civil majority in the case of purely internal affairs. Be quiet. But by a 2/3 majority in the case of more... Be quiet. I order you to be quiet. Look, you stupid bastard. You've got no arms left. Yes, I have. Look. It's just a flesh wound. I don't believe I've seen such a display of courage, skill, nerves, grace, stupidity. I'll do you for that. Oh, what? Come here. What are you going to do? Bleed on me? I'm invincible. You're a loony. The Black Knight's always triumph.
Roundtable Live, Monday through Friday, 1 a.m. till 4 a.m. Eastern Time. Bring your mind, bring your ideas, bring your voice. King Arthur had nothing on us. Here at Revolution Radio, freedomslips.com. Trucking, got my chips cashed in, keep trucking, like the Doodah Man, together, more or less in line, just keep trucking on.
My name's Jimmy. This Revolution Radio, we're talking about them dirty hippies.
Filthy dirty hippies.
Arrows of neon and flashing marquees out on Main Street. Chicago, New York, Detroit, and it's all on the same street. A typical city involved in a typical daydream. Hang it up and see what tomorrow brings.
hang it up and see what tomorrow brings. Bruce MacDonald in the morning. Bruce MacDonald, are you there?
I am.
Excellent.
Ladies and gentlemen, we are ambling our way through Weird Scenes Inside the Canyon by Dave McGowan, who we believe on this impromptu gathering Friday morning, October 30th, was in fact murdered with a fast-acting cancer. And he wrote this brilliant book, and Jimmy says it's just the tip of the iceberg, and he's committed to doing a book with me now. You're not going to believe how easy this book is to do, buddy. We're going to do it on GitHub, which is a writing platform, a shared space. So me, you, Epic, anyone can go in at any. The coders use it to share code across the world.
Sweet.
This is how code. Yeah, it's so easy. It's unbelievable. Don't worry about it.
Well,
you don't
listen,
have to be
we've done work on this, and we brought stuff out on our little show. Now, our show's not all that big. We're Epic and I. We do heavy duty research, man, but we're not that big. So we put stuff out on our show that we found that no one else has ever found, ever.
Yeah.
I mean, stuff about Manson, stuff about what happened up there. And, tonight we're doing a big extravaganza on the show. We've done it before, but we're coming back and we're going to do it again. MK Ultra Sex Bunnies, the Playboy Mansion, and what was going on out of that Playboy Mansion down there.
Can we include that in the book?
Definitely. Most definitely.
There's 12,000 words right there.
Hey, the thing is the party's going on up at the Playboy Mansion. What you brought up yesterday with the individual that had brought up the hypnotism, this is a dangerous subject. So the hypnotism is an integral part in conjunction with lysergic acid. So what happened was they would throw these parties up at the mansion. They have spotters up there because only so many people out of 1,000 could be hypnotized. You don't care about the other 900. You just care about the 100 that can be hypnotized. And spotters and people that can hypnotize people, they can spot someone that can be hypnotized. So what they do is they have a second after party when they come up to you and you're a person that could be hypnotized, Bruce, and they say, "Hey, Bruce. Hey, bro, we're having this little party afterwards. Here's a business card. Would you meet us up here up at Roman Polanski's place?" So they have a second party up at the Roman Polanski house. Meanwhile, everybody up there is hypnotizable, and there's hypnotists in the room that are handlers. So what they do is the handler then, during your LSD trip, will come up to you and become your friend, hypnotize you. These beautiful women, man. Beautiful women. And guess who? Roman Polanski. Guess who was up at Roman Polanski's house at one of these sex parties? Oh,
No idea.
Sirhan. Hey, man, what's going on, Sirhan? Yeah, so all of a sudden that lady in the polka dot dress starts to come into focus because when that dude supposedly, who did not shoot Robert F. Kennedy, he didn't shoot anybody. That guy. And he was triggered by the lady in the polka dot dress. He walked down where he was supposed to be. Rosie Greer jammed that gun in his hand. Rosie Greer wasn't trying to pull the gun out of his hand. Rosie Greer was jamming that gun in his hand. And the reason I was watching Robert Kennedy, and I looked behind him one day and I go, is that Rosie Greer? And Epic goes, yeah. And I go, well, what's he doing there? Ex-football player. Now he's an actor. All of a sudden, we start looking at the film of walking back in the hallway where he was shot, and we could see that this walk was rehearsed. And Epic noticed a moire pattern where they used to use these patterns to edit film together.
Oh. Unbelievable.
It's unbelievable. And guess who had dinner with Roman Polanski the night before he was killed? The dude who wrote The Manchurian Candidate, the guy that directed the movie. I can't think of his name right now.
The original with Frank Sinatra.
Right. The guy that directed that movie had dinner with Polanski the night before. So
Oh.
so all of this is based around the Playboy Mansion. The whole Hollywood thing is an operation from day one. Celebrities are direct conduits back to the agency, back to the company, man. The company. Now, I'm sorry. Did you want to jump in, Mr. Rowe? Because I have this clip here I want to play for you guys. It's going to blow your mind.
No. He's got to go to the gym. Thanks for joining us.
Yeah, and Richard Condon, I believe, was the writer of Manchurian Candidate. And yeah,
Who was the
interesting-
director of that movie, though? I can't think of his name. He's a big director too. Still.
Produced? I don't know.
I can't remember, but it was.
Oh, I'll bet it's that guy, that Jewish director in New York. What's his name? It'll come to me. I'll look it up.
Yeah. So, well, have a good workout.
I cheated. I looked it up. The Manchurian Candidate, Jonathan Demme. It says directed.
Are you? No, that's the remake with Denzel Washington.
Yeah, no,
and,
that's not it. The original.
Schreiber.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Go to the original real quick, because you guys will be blown away. I just can't. He's super popular too. I just, for whatever reason, I'm drawing a blank.
I think it's that director who actually played a role, a character in Eyes Wide Shut. The guy.
John Frankenheimer.
Exactly. Frankenheimer.
Yeah. Okay, guys, take care.
All right. Take care.
Hey, Mr. Rowe.
Yeah. So so the
Rock on, Jimmy.
Yeah, so the Manchurian Candidate, you had a Manchurian Candidate in Sirhan Sirhan. You brought up Son of Sam. And what we found was there were mind control assassins. They used to utilize the long-term fear, like killers that kill over a period of time. So there was a certain kind of killer over certain periods of time that they had these. The way that they programmed the situation was different. So it went from, like, say, the Zodiac killer. Someone's getting killed here. Someone's getting killed there. It's just this fear, this overwhelming sense of you never know when someone's going to kill you. Yeah. Then it moved from that into mass casualty events. So it went from over a long period of time of killing people. That mind control subject, or those mind control assassins, that class killed people over time. The next class killed people all at once, shooting from the tower, this type of thing. Anyway, let's get back to the Grateful Dead, because it's important. Because what we were talking about at the beginning of the show is everybody having a radio. Well, so everybody has a radio because radio waves are, a way to deliver news and information, music to you in your car or wherever you may be. So what's really interesting is the work that was done with the Grateful Dead specifically is frequency work. Say that if I know that a certain frequency causes agitation, if I broadcast that frequency to you via your radio, that could cause you to be agitated. That type of thing. So there was a show that happened, a Grateful Dead show, and it was at Cornell University, and lots of people went there. I've literally talked to someone who says they were at the concert. Now, Bob Weir from the Grateful Dead is about to explain to everybody how they were working with the company, and that show never happened. They played in the studio in the Bay Area, and people in New York thought they were at a concert watching the Grateful Dead. Now, Disney and another player, and I can't remember the call letters of the radio station, but it was some giant torch AM radio tower that was in that town. And they utilized that tower and some sort of, he talks about these hats that they passed out. Let's just get into the clip, Bruce. If you've never heard it, I'll drop it into you here in the chat. Here we go, ladies and gentlemen. Here's Bob Weir telling everybody how they were working with the CIA to help them out with some experiments.
Early versions, Estimated Profit, Terrapin Station, Sunrise, all that good stuff, and then all the other good stuff. Like we heard Uncle John's Band, I think, leading into this.
So this is not the legendary Cornell University.
We don't have those tapes in the vaults, and so until we do,
we can't talk about that.
What Cornell show?
Well, the Cornell. Oh,
the Cornell show.
Well, you know, come on. It's been a long time. I think it's unclassified.
Okay.
We can let them know that
I think it's unclassified.
Never
What the deal is that legendary Cornell show never happened.
It is true.
You know,
we never wanted to tell
a lot
anybody.
of folks think they were there. All these folks. If you think you were there, just ask yourself, were you in a 7-Eleven or a Burger King or something like that, and somebody came up to you, somebody from the company, came up to you and said, hey, wait, you look like just the kind of guy who might dig this hat. And it was sort of a kind of a well-made, sort of semi-elegant tinfoil hat. And if you people would put it on.
Style at the time.
Wow, this is the first time we're ever talking about this, man.
Well,
it's
not classified anymore. We can talk about it.
It's been 35 years.
And
wait, is the CIA? They're gone, right? Oh, no, they know
the company,
everything.
man, the company.
That's right. They're listening anyway. It don't matter now. What? They hear everything, right?
So the company had us do. We were playing over here in San Rafael at Front Street, our studio, and it was a very successful experiment. People still to this day think that concert actually happened.
They enjoyed themselves too.
And they enjoyed themselves thoroughly, and that's the great thing, man.
That's a good thing to use mind control for, to make people have a good time, I think.
Absolutely.
Wow. When did they do that interview?
That is on he had a TV show for a while called We're Here. And they were talking about a box set that was coming out, and this towards the end of the conversation. And I want to point out, I'm gonna drop the video in here. There's a go ahead.
This is mid 2000s because he says it's been 35 years.
Yeah. So let me see when this was put out. 2013.
Oh wow.
So
okay.
So 350,000 people have seen this. And that's not very many. But the point is what's funny about it to me is I'm a trained observer, so I'm watching this thing. So the beginning of the conversation is a setup. They're both acting. He's saying, he's stuttering and all this. Well, we could talk about that now. They planned on talking about it, and they brought it up. And so the beginning of the conversation is a setup. But during the conversation, there's some important things that happen. One of them is his buddy is sitting over on the couch, and he says CIA. And when he does, Bob Weir gets, physically upset and says, "The company, man, the company." And the other thing is, there's a very obscure moment that happens during this video where Bob Weir is talking, and the cameraman goes off of Bob Weir and does like an audience reaction shot kind of thing, right? And when he does. He flips the camera back towards the audience, and the guy that he happens to hit with the camera is clearly working at the company, and he's wearing this hat, one of these low hats that people wear to kind of, the dude is clearly there as a handler. And when they flash to the audience, I'll show it to you later. So they're suggesting here that people didn't go to that concert, that it didn't happen. So sounds to me like what they learned during the beginning part of the Grateful Dead, when everybody was involved in it before it was just music. At some point they were retired. They were out there just playing music, and there was nothing going on. But in the beginning, it was not that. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Well, the Grateful Dead have produced one of the most loyal cult followings in rock and roll history. There's people who gave up their lives just to follow them around from concert to concert, living out of VW vans and stuff. Like, what's that all about? I mean, it's almost devotional, like some like those Tibetans, walking and dropping to their knees for 1,000 kilometers. It seems almost like crazy devotional like that. How'd they do that?
Frequency. That's what was going on there. See, I mean, if you can just, it's really blatant too, because there's people that either hate the dead or you like them. Some people, I mean, they cannot stand the dead. They cannot stand it. And so that's a really simple, blatant example of frequency manipulation. Because just like hypnotism, not everybody can be hypnotized. Not everybody's going to like the frequencies that they were generating for the Grateful Dead. But the ones that did gave up their life and followed that band around like they were God.
Mm-hmm.
So the information that was learned through that, that's only one aspect of it. But now we're in 2020 in a behavior modification complex that completely relies on dopamine. I mean, I just read a paper recently where there's a such thing as dopamine-induced psychosis. You can induce somebody into being a schizophrenic paranoid just by overdosing them on dopamine. And what's really interesting about that is that video that I sent you last night with, Timothy Leary sitting around at the after party with all the social engineers from the 60s who developed the whole program of the hippie movement. Aldous Huxley, Bear Stanley, talking about how LSD creates a catastrophic event in the human being to cause change, because they were trying to cause the change like they're trying to cause now. The same exact change is trying to happen now as tried to happen back then. They tried to cause a catastrophic event with all those young people to make them willing and open to move into a new world, into the golden age. That was the plan. And so
tie it to now. What do you mean? What do you mean? Like just like what's going on now?
Well, we're experiencing what they described in that acid party as a catastrophic event. We're not taking acid, but this event that we're going through right now with the COVID thing and the lockdowns and the political unrest and all this stuff, it's a catastrophe for a lot of people. It's the kind of thing that makes people examine their lives and think about making changes, to see things in a different way based on it's like a car accident. You get in a car, or it's like me getting cancer. It's like I look at stuff different, man. It's like, hey, man, every extra minute I get is an extra minute. Okay, it's like. Do you think
it's possible to have a moment of what we would call, to paraphrase the Rolling Stones, sympathy for the devil here? Like, they know stuff and society has to change, or else it's gonna die out on the model it's on now. So these catastrophic events and these planned and orchestrated movements might in some way be necessary?
Well, I don't know, because, all these things have come into focus over the years. I met a guy named Carl Street. He's an astute businessman. He's been around for a long time. I discovered through talking to him that something that I had never heard of before, which was a 120-month marketing program, which is a 10-month marketing program. It exists, and
10 year.
Right. And so, and if you notice, each one of these social engineering events happens in 10-year increments. So you had, the 60s, the 70s, the 80s, which was the Coke, and the, and then the 90s when you went into 12-step programs. Everybody's depressed. You got all these dudes up in Seattle. They're all bummed out. They're crying. They're whining. They're shooting dope. I mean, heroin's going on big time. The whole vibe of the music changed. Then you go from the 90s into the 2000s. You start to get to this moment of this crescendo. The social engineering is reaching this point where it's the year 2000. There's going to be changes. Everybody's ready for the, Y2K and all this, and, moving into the, where we are now. And then, what happens? 9/11, 10 years of that. And, you can look at, you can see right when people started getting into the depressants and the antidepressants and all this, right, is the same exact moment as all that Seattle stuff was happening. So even though you weren't taking dope, you weren't shooting dope, but everybody was all of a sudden they were depressed.
Yeah.
Just like right before that, though, everybody was jacked up because that was the big push in the Silicon Valley. That's the 80s. That's when the electronics were all coming out. Everybody needed to work hard. Everybody needed to, you know, money was everywhere. Money was flying, man. People were doing, man, the blow in the Bay Area. People just sitting up all night, snorting coke, you know, writing code or whatever, you know. I mean, it was going on. And then all of a sudden, they had to slow all that. They had to drop it all back down to a notch, right? And then
yeah, absolutely. Well, now let's talk a little bit about some of the big names. Like next week, I'm going to get into the chapters become more focused. Like the first third of the book, McGowan just kind of opens up his thesis, folks. Then he gets into very specific personalities. I'm really looking forward to the chapter Riders on the Storm, the Jim Morrison chapter. Like, what do you know about, like, in that first chapter of Weird Scenes in the Canyon, where he just lists all the connections between the sons and daughters and their parents, like Jim Morrison and Admiral Morrison, the Gulf of Tonkin. Like, now the kids aren't in on it, right? They're actually turned into live action role players by their parents. Is that the case, or like what's going on there?
Well, it's interesting. It's an interesting aspect of it, but it's uncanny in the fact that just about every single person that made it then as a big star had some connection to the military. And like I said, the Presidio was heavily involved, and you know, there was long-haired military people, man. You know what I mean? There was hippies, but and that's the funny thing about the hippies too, is because you don't. I mean, I've been growing my hair for like a few years. It's you know, it's down the middle of my back, but it didn't just happen. I mean, I had to sit there and grow my hair for like 5 years. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So where did the first hippie come from, dude? The guy on Life magazine, he just had his long hair. Where did that come from, man? He's just some dude just showed up with long hair one day, and they said, "Hey, it's a hippie." You know what I mean? Look,
you know, you're dead on, because you don't see that style. Like I'm all through Latin America. You know, I've been to Nicaragua, Panama, Guatemala. I live in Costa Rica. You never see anyone walking around with a beard and long hair, right? It just doesn't happen. Let's call it the Jesus look, right? The pre-barber look. So that's an excellent point you brought up. Like, where did the first hippie come from? If it takes 5 years to grow your hair that long, like, you know.
I don't know. It's just, to me, it's funny. So they just show up on the cover of Life magazine, and then everybody starts growing. Next thing you know, everybody's growing their hair. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's just like It's just like in the '90s when hip hop started to get popular, and all of a sudden white kids in the suburbs are dragging their pants down around their ass, talking like they you know, just got out of the joint. And so, I mean, it's like, you know, all of a sudden the prison culture was infused into the population via the rap music, because, you know, if you look at where we are now in the lexicon of the language that's used, when they say stuff to us here in America, they say, "Hey, you're on lockdown." That's exactly what they say to you when you're in prison. Get your cell.
Absolutely. Jimmy, I just got to take us into the break. Folks, this is Revolution Radio Studio A. Please help us out. Go to revolution.radio or freedomslips.com and hit the Patreon button. We'll be coming back after the break talking more about this. You guys want to take calls? You want to have people call, not stay on the call, but just call in, give their thoughts?
Sounds good.
864-810-1039 if you want to call in, folks. 864-810-1039, or Seen That Tinker 1 if you have me on Skype, or just look me up and I'll add you right away. And if you know anything about this, or you have any really pinpoint questions, we'd love to hear them. We're going to be doing Weird Scenes Inside the Canyon all next week, and Jimmy and Epic and myself and maybe Carl Street have committed to a book here. We'll see you on the other side, folks.
right back after this message.
Looking good, looking good. I am
I had to dump it. Hang on a second. I got to see if this is the right song. Hold on.
Check your cats.
Hang on.
I'm a one. I'm a one. I'm a one. I'm a one. The one that call a seven son. I can tell your future, it will come to pass. I can...
All right, all right, all right. I'm the one. I'm a spy in the house of love. All right, hang on. I gotta go back.
I'm a spy.
All right, here we go. Bam.
Peabody Award in its second year of producing unparalleled broadcasting excellence in 1997. That is, if you really care about learning the truth.
Thank you for listening to Revolution Radio, freedomslips.com, the #1 listener-supported radio station on the internet. Please help support this station so this battle can continue forward. Revolution Radio!
I'm a spy in the house of love. I know the dream that you're dreaming of. I know the word that you long to hear. I know your
My name's Jimmy. It's MacDonald in the morning. It's Jim Morrison. He's a spy. He was a spy, Bruce, in the house of love.
I caught that. Yeah.
Well, you know, he was an important character, but I mean, you know, literally, we talked about Aldous Huxley. We talked about him
Yes.
being at that closeout party at the social engineering team. And Aldous
Now,
Huxley.
why would they even put that up online? And I noticed that it only had like 763 views.
I know.
Which I found.
I know. Well, I don't know, but it was definitely filmed on purpose. They weren't afraid to be in front of the camera. And so there's quite a bit of interesting conversation. They are tripping too, because I can tell when I'm watching a couple of them, and especially Timothy Leary, I can tell when he's starting to get high and stuff. You know, so it's definitely real, for sure.
Yeah.
But you know, Aldous Huxley was an important part of the social engineering, and he was the book, The Doors of Perception, is the reason that the Doors have their name, is because of that book.
Oh, okay. I did not know that, actually.
Yeah, so Jim Morrison was a big fan of Aldous Huxley's. So honestly, I mean, it's not in anybody's book, but I wouldn't be surprised if, Jim Morrison and Aldous Huxley and some other people all sat in a room. Just because, we're under the spell that these guys were writing their own lyrics too. It's like, oh yeah, Jim Morrison. Yeah. He was sitting up in his. I used to live in Venice Beach. I lived on the same street as the hotel where Jim Morrison used to live, and I used to walk right by it every day when I was going down to the beach to get my coffee. And we're off the air. Revolution Radio is gone.
Are you kidding me?
No.
My God.
No, wait.
Let me grab.
No, it's still there. It's still there. Sorry about that.
No, that was just us, Paul, calling in, and I. Sorry, Paul, I don't want to take your call today. No offense. We'll catch up with you on a roundtable. Go ahead, Jimmy.
Yeah. So anyway, Morrison used to live in this brick building, one block off the boardwalk in Venice Beach. I used to walk by the building every day, down, on my way to the ocean in the morning, and Jim Morrison spent a lot of time in Venice Beach. He spent a lot of time in Laurel Canyon, but there's another canyon people don't talk about, and that's Topanga Canyon. And Topanga Canyon is where a lot of stuff was going down, too, that nobody even really knows about too much, because you hear a lot about Laurel Canyon. Topanga Canyon is where a lot of magic stuff was going on. There was a lot of magic in them dar hills. And that's where Aldous Huxley, a lot of these parties went on up there. Some of these beat people, Dennis Hopper, all these people. I mean, there's quite a bit of, as far as the actors are concerned, there's quite a bit of this same exact thing that's going on here. What they did was they gave the acid or the LSD to people that were influential. And then they would get them high, and then they would give them some, and then they would pass it around, and they would do it in specific places. Like in that video that we're talking about, they say how they, gave it to some actors, they gave it to some priests, they gave it to some religious folks. They did tests on people. I mean, everything that they learned. And one of the things was that one of the key moments for me of clarity was when they started talking about serotonin and dopamine. And then all of a sudden, that's when my mind just blew up, because my whole stuff I've been doing for the last 4 years is all about behavior modification and how you get a dopamine strike from certain things you find or see on the internet, and how to keep you in a certain dopamine cycle where you're constantly seeking pleasure and never attaining any happiness, because pleasure costs money and happiness is free. So when I hear this guy Timothy Leary literally taking credit for turning the American people into pleasure seekers, they were already doing this back then with the dopamine, only they weren't using electronic methods to do it.
Yeah. One thing I'm always wondering, because I'm, I'm much more in the literary world. Getting a wicked echo there. Nobody else has joined the call. Why am I getting an echo? Can you guys hear that? Okay, it's gone. Is the literary world, like, so before the hippie movement, there was the beat movement, and you could call that like the infancy of the hippie movement, right? You got Dharma Bums and On the Road with Jack Kerouac. You've got Allen Ginsberg with his unbelievably bad poetry, Howl and all that crap. You've got, William S. Burroughs talking about raping children in the third world right in his books, and this is all going on in the 50s. There was an obscenity trial for Naked Lunch in New York, and they deemed that it had artistic value and they let it in, right? So if the beat literature thing hadn't happened, there's a direct connection between the beat literature and the hippie movement, is what I'm saying.
Yes,
right?
Yes, yeah, man. And the thing is those people that you're just mentioning there those people are all operators, man. Every single one of them are operators. It's the same thing, man. There's never been some organic thing that happened where these people just all of a sudden showed up and all this shit happened. Come on, man. I mean,
this ain't organic, folks. This is GMO culture, man. This is done in a lab. We're all, when I hear this stuff, Jimmy, I think to myself, oh my God, the Chinese are freer than us under the CCP. Because as you say, when they put a gun to your head and say, do this, at least they're not screwing with your cognitive liberty. At least they're not screwing with your head. But in America, the land of the free, they can give you the pretense that you have freedom because they've already got you in the head.
That's right. Cognitive liberty is the number one issue for the future. And I mean, if you can't, listen, I'm not a scientist. I don't have a PhD. Okay, I figured everything out from information that I found about what I found out. Okay, the stuff that I've been talking about, there's people that have come out subsequently and whistle blew. Say, hey man, I came out, this is what we're actually doing. And you can go, everything I'm saying, you can literally go back up scientifically right now. And I'm telling you, in 2020, you might as well be on acid if you're on the internet, because I'm telling you right now, it's a total ultimate control mechanism ever devised in human history.
Well, the digital world is profoundly cerebral, right? It's constantly operating on perception. It only engages two senses, hearing and sight. There's no smells on the internet. There's nothing you can touch. So it's all in your head. The whole thing is a cerebral assault. Most of the internet, right? Like, no, don't get me wrong. I mean, I'm on the internet 6-8 hours a day, even if it's just me tinkering around, listening to a podcast in the background and stuff. But and then we're getting all these tech execs leaving now and talking about these things about. They're openly talking about this at Facebook, that they know what they're doing. And, so, hey, I'm going to throw a cherry bomb language sentence out here. Like, Mark Zuckerberg is a 21st century Charles Manson in a lot of ways, don't you think?
I think so. I mean, literally. What was done to Charles Manson over years and years and years of him being in the system and not having any parents.
Yeah.
When they throw a whole group of people together, children together in some situation where they don't have parents, they got spotters there that pick those kids out, man. Who's the smart kids? Those kids get separated out, man. Because from now until the end of time, they don't have any parents, man. They're in the system. And so because they're in the system, they utilize the system, and they utilized it with Charlie Manson. He was in Boys Town, man. He got singled out. He was in the system the whole time, man. They let you out of the system. They say, hey, Charlie, tell you what, we're going to let you out, okay? We'll let you out, but we'll let you out. You're going to do this, that, and the other thing, okay? Okay, man. Yeah, man. Anything you say.
Yeah. Yeah. Right. So you don't think he even did time?
I'd be surprised. I talked to Ron Patton, who's the executive producer for Clyde Lewis. He knows somebody that was in San Quentin, and he says that the guy said he saw Manson in there. I don't think, honestly, to me, the whole thing is a show, dude. I mean, Epstein goes in the courthouse, he goes into jail, he goes out the back door. He's never spent 1 second in jail. I mean, how do you know? I mean, what? You get an interview, or once every few years there's a parole hearing. Dude just shows up, he sits down for the makeup, and they put the swastika on his head. You know, he sits down and, you know, acts crazy and then leaves. But I mean, honestly, if you go back and listen to what Manson was saying and you are in the alternative media, you're going to come to the realization he wasn't crazy. Because when you listen to what he was saying, he was telling you exactly what was going on. This is how Epic and I got onto this, dude. He goes like this in this one interview. He goes, I used to be smart, but then I learned how to be stupid. There's a part where he pantomimes every single Greek mask emotion in like a few seconds. How did he learn how to do that without any mirrors? You know, here's another thing. In this one, they go, look at him, he's so crazy. Look how crazy he is. And this section, this is where Epic and I just really blew it up, dude. He talks, I noticed him, he goes, and I noticed he was talking backwards, forwards.
Oh,
and
God.
I swear to God, just like you and I are talking right now. And I go, Epic. How
would someone learn to do that?
Because a lot of times in magic and stuff, in these different practices, you know, you're speaking in backwards. So So the thing is, when we noticed that, dude, we went and did reverse speech on him talking backwards, forwards.
Wow.
He says shit about MK. He says stuff about mind control. I mean, I can't quote exactly what it is. We have it on tape though, and it's clear as a fucking bell. Excuse my language. It's clear.
Oh, that's okay.
Yeah, it's clear as a bell, man. Anyhow, so that put us onto a whole bunch of stuff too. So Epic and I branched off on this stuff in directions that no one's really ever gone, and it was funny because we had done a whole bunch of shows that got eliminated when my archives were taken away, and those were really powerful, information-packed shows that we haven't really recreated them again because they happened organically because we were finding this stuff on the air, and we were like, you know what I mean? So we haven't been able to recreate it, but then we did a bunch of shows after that. And then that's right about the time, about 9 months after that was when that Quentin Tarantino movie came out, where they were trying to put some idea forward about that whole thing with that Quentin Tarantino movie. And it was right when that dude's book was about to come out that you've been talking about, the guy that went on Rogan. So,
yeah, O'Neill.
Yeah, so...
Sorry, my connection dropped there for about 15 seconds. Really weird. Really weird. Yeah, O'Neill did a great book, but look, I watched the whole Rogan podcast, 3 hours. I haven't read Chaos, so I should keep my mouth shut, you know, especially because the guy is a good writer and he spent 20 years on the book, but I didn't get the sense in that podcast that he really, you know, he would go at this as deeply as you or Epic or Carl and I will do when we cobble this book together, the four of us.
Carl,
don't worry, nobody's fingers will hit. Nobody's talking about work here. I'll operate the shovel, but you guys can upload audio, URLs. Just back up all your research and just lay the road path for me so I can. You know, just wake up every day and do 8 hours of work, and we'll split all the revenue. We'll market the hell out of it. We'll see if we can get on coast to coast, everything. But we'll have this book out by end of February, I promise you.
Well, I can say this, and I'm not sure how much he can talk about. I'm not sure. We're gonna have to talk to Carl, so I don't want to put him on the spot. But he was high up in security up the Presidio at this time.
Oh God, he's not going to want to do a book.
Well, I mean, I've had him on my show. He will talk about certain aspects of it. So,
well, those NDAs are really consent to be murdered if you violate them, and you know what I mean? Like those are serious NDAs. Like it's your word or your life.
That's right. Well, right? You know, and you were mentioning he had mentioned in his book about a lot of these little low level characters that got killed. Yeah. But the thing is people got to realize the reason those kind of people get killed it's not because there's somebody special or whatever. Those are people who couldn't keep their mouth shut.
Yeah.
Those are people who start telling somebody something in the room, and they don't realize that in every single room there's an operator who's delivering messages right back. Hey, man, let me tell you something. Let me tell you something right now. Frank Sinatra, the Rat Pack, that's a total operation, man. Those guys were feeding information back to the company, man. People come up to those guys, and I mean, look, Sammy Davis Jr. was literally in the Church of Satan.
Yes, he was. Yeah, and you can see Eddie Murphy refer to that in Comedians in Cars Getting Coffee on Netflix with Jerry Seinfeld. He pantomimes.
You went away. Ow, man. My eye, man. Yeah, so ladies and gentlemen, I don't know what happened to Bruce. He disappeared. But, yeah, so Sammy Davis Jr. So, I mean, this goes back to the 50s, and then, you know, it goes back even further than that. It goes back to the Fabian Socialist Society. I mean, this goes back to the guy sitting around the campfire telling a story to the tribe and saying that the sun is going to go away because he knows there's an eclipse coming. You know, the thing is this has been going on. It's just now it's been turned into what's called the behavior modification complex. All the stuff we're talking about here, nobody's immune to it. I'm not immune to it. I listen to this music. I love, a lot of these songs. How could I not love them? I mean, back in the day, the way we did it was we went and bought records and played them over and over and over and over and over again, 1,000,000 times, until we knew every single word. And that's what a lot of people did. A lot of people did that, And so you see, I mean, you can go any country, any city in America and tune your radio in and find a classic rock station. Why is that? I mean, is there so many people clamoring to hear classic rock? The thing is it just that 10-year program, that 120-month program makes people nostalgic and keeps people in a certain kind of mindset. It's hard to move out of a mindset because it's like a niche, like a well-worn niche. And, the way the well-worn niche is done now is the well-worn niche isn't just music and movies and all this other things, but it's also, where you go and what you do on the internet. So the thing is that even though it's behavior modification complex, and yeah, it can be real bad, it's all about what you're looking for, because it's going to show you what you want to see. If the reality that you want is the one that you're searching for, then it's going to give you all those bells and whistles that you're looking for. If you're looking for something else, you're going to find something else. So it's all a matter of where you are and what your filter bubble is and how you're, you're fed, your news feed or whatever. You're fed this food, and you got to decide for yourself, hey man, what's the food that I'm going to be eating? Bruce, did you come back? I don't know where Bruce went, man. Let me try to call him back. My name's Jimmy. It's MacDonald in the morning. It's revolution.radiofreedomslips.com. The #1 listener-supported radio network on the face of the earth through the ether space and beyond. And what we're talking about is the social engineering that went on in 1960s, creating the mentality of the 70s. What are the odds that Steven Spielberg and Lucas are literally student film producers filming the Grateful Dead at Altamont when the Hells Angels killed a guy at a concert? The exact polar 180-degree opposite of the mentality of Woodstock. I've heard that they were playing Sympathy for the Devil. I think it's a rumor. But the point is that astrologically, at that moment in time, that murder and that filming of that murder, and those two guys, Lucas and Spielberg, filming that murder, that ritual, that killing at that astrological moment in time, and look it up. If you're an astrologer, look up that moment in time, that day when that guy was killed, because that was the end of the hippie movement. And that was the beginning of the 1970s and the turning of America back into the World War II type battle against the young people, against Nixon, all this, the whole mentality, the whole everything, what we see going on today, racial tension, terrorism, bombs going off in the streets, people getting beat. You know what I mean? Well, it appears that Bruce is unavailable. I'm not sure why. I don't know why. But the point is that we'll get this together. Epic Journeyman is not here right now. If he was, I could tell you he can't come to the table this early in the morning. He's working. So, but the thing is that him and I together, it's like I forgot more than I can even bring up. Just because if Epic and I were together, he'd spark me and I'd remember some more stuff here. But this is kind of on the spot, impromptu. We didn't put this together, so I'm just jumping in with Bruce on this, and because this is an area that we spent quite a bit of work and quite a bit of time on, Epic and I. So I'm sure Carl would be happy to join in any discussions we might be wanting to have. I had him scheduled to come on, but I had a migraine that day and I couldn't get him to come in that day. And I haven't talked to him since then. But in the meantime, don't forget MacDonald in the morning every morning right here at revolution.radiofreedomslips.com, 7 to 9 p.m. or a.m. Pacific. And tonight we got a very special Halloween extravaganza on Into the Microcosm. So I hope you come back and join us. We're going to be doing some MK Ultra Psycho Sex Bunnies tonight and so much more. So please remember to stop on by and check it out. And don't forget, Studio A, Studio B all day long right here. 48 hours a day, 7 days a week. The home of industrial strength information. My name's Jimmy. It's MacDonald in the morning. And why don't we just go out in style?
Come on, baby, take a chance with us. Come on, baby, take a chance with us. Come on, baby.